Hi guys, I'm Erik Voss, and HBO has announced that Game of Thrones Season 7 will be premiering July 16th. And they made this announcement with a Facebook Live event where tens of thousands of us watched a big block of ice melt, slowly revealing the date. You know, not the worst way I've spent an afternoon. And of course, this awesome teaser. Now, it was mostly just iconic lines from past seasons, played over cool looking imagery of all the house sigils attacking each other, but I think there could be some clues hidden in here that might hint at things that we'll see in Season 7. So let's break it down.
I know what my father was, what he did. I know the Mad King earned his name.
Okay, so here we see the three dragon heads of the Targaryen sigil as we hear Daenerys' line from Season 5 where she admitted to Tyrion her father's faults. Really, the first time she said anything against her family's history.
I know what my father was, what he did. I know the Mad King earned his name.
Also, this scene ends with Daenerys' break the wheel line that we hear at the end of this teaser. We also hear the voice of her father, the Mad King, as he screams, "Burn them all," which, remember, were his last words before he was slain by Jaime Lannister as the Baratheon army invaded King's Landing. We actually saw this event through Bran's eyes as he had that vision last season. But I think the point of this is to remind us that before Daenerys can invade Westeros to reclaim the Iron Throne, she's gonna have to come to terms with the scorched Targaryen legacy that her father left behind. And that might mean that she has to revisit her birthplace on Dragonstone. And I love how the visuals here kind of play into that, with these dragons made out of stone that looks very much like dragon glass, obsidian, one of the few things that can kill White Walkers. And large quantities of dragon glass are known to be found on Dragonstone, which I think could end up being a major plot point in this season. All right, moving on.
Kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
We are Ironborn. We take what is ours.
So in this section, right after the Mad Kings burn them all, we see and hear the historical events that came right after that moment. Robert Baratheon, symbolized by the stag, ending the Targaryen rule, the dragons. And over this we hear Robert's line from Season 1.
I'll kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
And when you think about it, Robert's obsession with murdering every last Targaryen relative was actually pretty catastrophic for him, because it drove a wedge between him and Ned Stark, resulting in Ned resigning as Hand of the King, Jaime Lannister feeling safe to attack Ned, and then that ensuing injury to weaken Ned physically and weaken both him and Robert politically as the Lannisters took power. Which is why right after that we see the Lannister lion turning on the Baratheon stag, along with Cersei's ominous Season 1 line to Joffrey.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
And then we see the Stark wolf head howl in pain as we hear Joffrey give the command that proved fatal for his own reign in a lot of ways, executing Ned Stark and sending Westeros into war. I also like the way they include the sound of Sir Ilyn's sword as it cut through Ned's neck. So really, this 8 seconds summarized all the major events of Season 1. Could have just watched that. And before I move on, we see the tentacles of the Greyjoy squid constrict as we hear the voice of Balon Greyjoy as he lectured his son Theon in Season 2.
We are Ironborn. We're not subjects. We're not slaves. We do not plow the fields or toil in the mine. We take what is ours.
And don't forget, we're due a massive naval battle between the fleet of Euron Greyjoy and the combined fleet of Daenerys, including the Dothraki, Martells, Tyrells, and Theon and Yara. So obviously the might and the pride of the Greyjoys is gonna be a big deal as we head into Season 7. All right, moving on.
The Lannisters send their regards.
You don't think I'd let you marry that beast, do you?
I now proclaim Cersei of the House Lannister, protector of the Seven Kingdoms.
Okay, so in this section, we see the big political shifts of Season 2 and 3 as the Greyjoy squid brings down the Stark wolf on one side, as Theon did when he sacked Winterfell, while on the other side, we hear the voice of Roose Bolton when he betrayed the Starks at the Red Wedding, along with Catelyn's scream of defeat.
The Lannisters send their regards.
And at first I thought this was another lion, but on a second glance, I think this is a bear, the sigil of the House Mormont, of Jorah and Little Lyanna fame. Now, this is interesting because the Mormonts are the only minor house to be featured in this teaser. Like, we don't see anything from House Aaron or Martell, Frey, or Bolton, for example. And maybe it's just hard to show a bird, a sun spear, a flayed man, or a pair of castles duking it out with all these other animals. But still, I think this is a clue that the Mormonts will be pretty instrumental to the endgame of this series. Like with Lady Lyanna helping Jon maintain his control of the North as Ducking to North, but also Jorah possibly headed to Old Town to heal his grayscale and work with Sam on a way to defeat the White Walkers. I kind of talked about some theories on that in my other Season 7 prediction videos. Also, there's this awesome shot of the rose and thorny stems of the Tyrell family as we hear Olenna Tyrell pretty much admit to Marjorie in Season 4 that she was the one who poisoned Joffrey so that the Tyrells could overtake the throne.
You don't think I'd let you marry that beast, do you?
But then, shortly after that, we see the green wildfire overtake the rose, reflecting Cersei's epic blowing up of the Sept of Baelor in the Season 6 finale, killing off the Tyrell bloodline. And over this, we hear where that hostile takeover left Cersei, on the Iron Throne, as the new Hand of the King, Qyburn, crowned her at the end of that episode.
Protector of the Seven Kingdoms.
All right, let's move on.
Lannister, Targaryen, Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell. They're all just spokes on a wheel. This one's on top, then that one's on top, and on it spins, crushing those on the ground.
Okay, so here we return to that Season 5 scene with Daenerys as she describes the conflicts between the major families of Westeros as spokes on a wheel that she intends to break.
I'm going to break the wheel.
And I just love how this plays out visually, with each of these sigils crumbling like mountains in an earthquake. But it's interesting how the first one we see breaking is Daenerys' own house, the Targaryen dragons. And I think this indicates that the cyclical political struggle between the families will indeed crumble, but Daenerys will be a victim in that collapse. So it won't be her necessarily breaking this wheel causing the end of human history. Instead, the visuals make it clear that winter is causing it. Look at the falling snow. It's the cold making everything shatter. Like when it gets really cold and ice can burst pipes and trees and stuff. So this is a cool visual representation of the Game of Thrones promise from its very first scene, that winter is coming and White Walkers will consume this petty Game of Thrones. All right, moving on to this final section.
The same thing is coming for all of us. There is only one war that matters. The Great War. And it is here.
Okay, so this last part contains the first new lines that we've heard from Season 7.
Same thing is coming for all of us.
Although that first bit might have been from Sir Davos, I'm not exactly sure.
There is only one war that matters. The Great War. And it is here.
By the sound of this line, it seems like Jon is trying to convince someone to rally to his cause to arm up against the White Walkers. And I think this will be a huge part of Jon's mission in Season 7, along with convincing the rest of Westeros that White Walkers are actually real and not the mythical boogeymen that most people assume they are. And I just love how the editing makes it appear as if the pieces of the shattered family sigils fall into place to form this spiral pattern. Now remember, last season we learned that this spiral pattern is something that the White Walkers do to recall their creation by the Children of the Forest. It's a symbol of their history. So really, it's kind of like the White Walkers are destroying all of the Westerosi family sigils to create their own family sigil, which is exactly what the White Walkers are all about. Remember, they destroy humans to create their own armies, and they take human babies to create their own White Walker babies. Which is why it's doubly cool that this spiral glows blue, forming the blue eye of a White Walker. So basically, if you look at this teaser in totality, it shows the wars of men throughout the Game of Thrones seasons, Robert's Rebellion, the War of the Five Kings, Cersei's coup d'etat, and the upcoming Targaryen restoration. But then all of them get torn down by winter, their pieces left to rot and then resurrected as White Walkers. So even without new footage, this teaser's very cool, and I really love the promise it sets up for season 7. And yes, July 16th, too long to wait. And yeah, it'll only be 7 episodes, but it sounds like each of them will be 20 minutes or so longer. And with so few episodes left, I really don't think there's gonna be any more time for filler. So hopefully no more endless chats between Sam and Gilly. Now, I've made 2 other videos going through all my predictions for Game of Thrones season 7, so definitely check those out. I cover pretty much everything. But if you have any other predictions or theories of your own, please weigh in the comments. And please like this video and subscribe to New Rockstars and share this video around. You can also contribute to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our current patrons, especially Kelly Hopper. You can hit me up on Twitter at EA Voss with any thoughts you have about Game of Thrones, or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.